Greetings, lords and ladies. Just briefly so you know, I am quite ill, stricken with pestilence at the moment, so very congested, sore throat, the whole lot. So if I sound different, that's the reason. Hopefully I'll be better, well, forthwith. One can only hope. But that's not what this video is about. The other day, there was an article published citing Paradox's loss in money, 37 million USD, with respect to Bloodlines 2. And interestingly enough, they basically took credit for borking this, for messing this up. Now, this is not the first time they've admitted that they have screwed something up. This happened about a year ago, a little over a year ago, where they acknowledged that they had made a mistake, that is Paradox acquiring the World of Darkness IP, primarily because they have no experience with this type of game, the genre, type of setting, etc., etc. For those of you who don't know, Paradox is famous or infamous, depending on how you want to frame it, for making grand strategy games. Grand strategy games have nothing to do with RPGs in a traditional sense. Sure, you can roleplay characters, but it's much more like a spreadsheet, like a data sheet. It's not the same thing at all. And for whatever reason, a while back, they had acquired White Wolf. And ever since then, things have kind of gone downhill with respect to World of Darkness, in my humble opinion. And of course, they wanted to profit from it because they thought, oh, this is a grand opportunity for something else. But when your head and nose are stuck knee-deep in one specific genre of gaming, grand strategy and this type of approach to marketing, and your basic understanding hinges on that sole experience you've gathered from that type of game, it's not very applicable to games outside of that genre. So it's not looking good by all accounts. So here's what the article has to say. Fredrik Wester, I think that's how you say the name, CEO of Paradox Interactive, said the blame for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2's failure lay at the publisher's door, not that of the Chinese room, which had been drafted in to save the product after years of development hell. Quote, the Vampire Masquerade Bloodlines 2 is a strong vampire fantasy. We are pleased with the developers' work on the game, Vester said. We've had high expectations for a long time since we saw that it was a good game with a strong IP in the genre with a broad appeal. A month after release, we can sadly see that sales do not match our projections, which necessitates the write-down. The responsibility lies fully with us as the publisher. The game is outside of our core areas. In hindsight, it is clear that this has made it difficult for us to gauge sales. Going forward, we focus our capital to our core segments. At the same time, we'll evaluate how we best develop the World of Darkness's strong brand catalog in the future. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 has 2 expansions planned as part of the game's premium edition. Paradox said it remains committed to delivering them. Our post-release plan remains firm. We will deliver updates and the promised expansions to the game in the coming year, Vesta added. And so on and so forth. So essentially, it's a loss of 27 million USD. And they acknowledge other things, such as calling it Bloodlines 2 wasn't a good idea. I think we all agreed on that, because the game is not Bloodlines 2. It has very little to do with Bloodlines other than some very superficial overlap and similarities. But I think this is really a classic example of a publisher that just got too greedy and got in over its head. The Paradox is well known, I've talked about this before, for milking customers out of every last cent through a gradual, slow burn of DLC for their grand strategy games. And they have no idea how to approach this, and we actually have evidence for this. Do you remember initially that there was DLC planned for something like 30 USD or 30 euros that included 2 extra clans that should have been in the base game, by all accounts? And Paradox, not thinking, I guess they were incapable, just thought, yeah, that's perfectly fine, until the backlash came. What was this backlash? Well, quite simply, a totally outrageous and unreasonable demand to make of players who are not used to this sort of thing. People wanted all the old clans in one package. Now, eventually they got it. That didn't save the game, but fair enough. Now, in addition to this, I should add that we have never found out the actual reason why Hardsuit Labs, the original developers, were dropped by Paradox. Some people have cited irreconcilable differences at the level of game design, politics, just not getting along socially. I don't know. No one really knows. People claim to know it. I don't believe them. It is a secret that has been lost to the darkness. And the Chinese room was hired to sort of, I guess, fix it, patch it up, basically do their best. Do I think the Chinese room did a good job? I guess it's hard to say, because the Chinese room has very little experience with this type of game. Ultimately, I thought it was pretty much slop. I did not think the game was good. I did not recommend it to you in my review, and I stand by that. No matter what the Chinese room might have done or the effort they had put into the game, it ultimately failed. It was not entertaining. It was not engaging. The writing was bad. There just wasn't really anything I could say about the game that was very positive. But it is good on some level that Paradox admits that they have committed a colossal error in even working with the World of Darkness, because they don't have a bloody clue what they're doing with it. What this means concretely, in my view, is that Paradox themselves need to stay the hell away from the World of Darkness, Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf, whatever the IP is. Now, my understanding as well is that Paradox has decided to delegate the management of the World of Darkness to some other team, to some sort of subsidiary that they happen to own, which I guess is the best case scenario. What this ultimately means, though, is that it is very much up in the air with respect to the question of whether or not we will ever get a proper sequel to the original Bloodlines game, or for that matter, any game that's good that's set in the World of Darkness. Paradox can't handle it, the Chinese room cannot handle it, so they would need to find somebody else. I have made the suggestion, other people have, of Owlcat, but the reality is that even though I think Owlcat is and would be competent, they have their hands full with other titles, other projects. The Expanse, Dark Heresy, further content, Rogue Trader, and that's just a shame, but I get it at the same time. Which is not to say that Owlcat would never do that. In their surveys they send out, they've asked questions about things like Gothic horror games, and specifically games about vampires and werewolves. It's not totally out of the question, but at this stage of the game, it's very unlikely. And it's a damn bloody shame. So many beautiful IPs over the years having been manhandled, mishandled, and just driven into a pit of fecal matter again and again and again. And the only thing they care about, of course, are the numbers, meaning, they lost 37 million USD, whoop-de-doo. And we, the customers, the players, sincerely wanted a proper sequel, a good Bloodlines game with vampires. We didn't get that, and we probably never will. Shame on you, Paradox. You are a terrible publisher and a terrible company with hyper-predatory business practices on DLC. And you know it works, so you do it anyway. So I would say, F you, Paradox, and thank you for your quote-unquote gift. But, as always, thank you for tuning in. And if you like my content and you like my takes, you can leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. It's much appreciated, as it really helps out the channel. And I'll check you out next time. Take care.